The deepest sign of contact was not in the sky, but in people. Families, communities, and individuals were transformed by patience, steadiness, and care. Welcome to the channel, My UFO Encounters. All the stories are based on real events. My field experiences, travels, and late-night studies, observations, and conversations with these beings from other planets. I'm fulfilling their request to bring the knowledge gained from all these years of conversations to all humanity. To this end, I create stories with guidance and knowledge from them. Welcome to this universe. Before we begin, write in the comments where you're watching from and what you believe about extraterrestrial contact. The earliest encounters did not only test the eyes, they tested the body. When lights brightened against wind and insects hushed into silence, adrenaline surged. Hands shook, jaws clenched, breath caught. The first transformation was simply survival, learning to remain steady in the presence of the extraordinary. Guides taught participants to slow their exhales, to soften jaws, to press feet into the earth. Logs show how this discipline became second nature. Heart raced but breath held, felt warmth, stayed seated. Adrenaline slowed after 2 long exhales. The body itself became the instrument of training. Over time, what had begun as fear became steadiness. Dreams reinforced the lesson. Participants described luminous figures showing them how to hold balance, how to breathe under pressure, how to stay calm when brightness surged. They woke with the muscle memory of calm. The unknown had not only trained perception, it had trained nervous systems. Families noticed changes. Parents who once snapped under stress now paused for breath. Children who learned to write before speaking discovered clarity in describing feelings. Homes grew calmer. Schools with parents in circles saw students who could endure silence without panic. Communities noticed citizens who reacted less to rumor and more to patience. The sky had not promised disclosure. It had delivered capacity. Fear, the universal human reflex, had been reshaped into steadiness. That was the first and most intimate transformation. From 2011 onward, logs and debriefs recorded not just lights but lives. Participants began to notice how the ethic of the field carried into relationships. Couples who had trained together found that conflicts at home softened. Instead of escalating, they paused for breath as they had under the stars. Parents reported that bedtime routines grew calmer after children were taught to practice silence. Even workplaces reflected the ethic. Meetings opened with moments of quiet, arguments slowed, and listening replaced interruption. Dreams during this period showed presences guiding people through ordinary interactions, conversations with family, disagreements at work, silent moments of frustration. The corrections were subtle. Soften here, exhale there, listen before responding. Participants woke with fresh patience. The training had crossed the threshold from the field into the home. Auditors began to track these changes, even if informally. In anonymized notes, participants described how their relationships were different. Less shouting, children calmer, conflict shorter. Though anecdotal, the consistency of reports suggested that the phenomenon's real curriculum was not spectacle but transformation. And you? Have you ever found that a skill from one area of life, like breathing, patience, or silence, helped you in your closest relationships? Comment below. Your story might encourage someone else. Fieldwork also reinforced this theme. In 2013, during a night of nothing unusual, a guide reminded the group that patience was the goal. A couple present later reported that the reminder helped them through an argument at home. They wrote it into their logs as lesson carried forward. The phenomenon seemed to echo itself in ordinary life. By 2015, participants realized that the lights were not only teaching them to stay steady under the sky, they were teaching them to stay steady with each other. Relationships grew gentler, conflicts shorter, patience stronger. The transformation was not abstract. It was daily. By the mid-2010s, the ethic of patience and care had spread beyond families into wider communities. Circles noticed that when multiple households practiced together, neighborhoods grew calmer. Schools adopted silence minutes modeled after pre-briefs. Local groups began to use logging techniques for meetings, encouraging participants to write impressions before debating. What began as a method for contact had become a tool for civic life. Phenomena seemed to affirm this expansion. Logs from 2016 describe lights appearing not during peak expectation, but during community gatherings that carried the ethic. A hush, a hum, a brightening point. all arriving when people were already steady, connected, and inclusive. The message was clear. The curriculum was not about spectacle. It was about shaping how humans lived together. Dreams reinforced the theme. Participants across distance described being guided through scenes of cooperation. Neighbors working together, strangers sharing silence, communities solving conflict without escalation. Presences corrected them with the same gestures used under the stars. Breathe, soften, listen, care. Humanity was being trained for community, not just for contact. Auditing practices adapted. Logs began including reflections on daily life. Did patience increase? Did conflicts shorten? Did communities grow calmer? Auditors treated these notes as data, reinforcing the idea that transformation was measurable not just in the sky, but in society. Quick pause. Do you believe small habits like writing before speaking or breathing before reacting can ripple into whole communities? Share your perspective in the comments. By 2017, the culture had matured into a movement without leaders or names. Communities recognized that the ethic was not about proving contact, but about practicing humanity. The lights had not solved problems. They had shown how to face them. By the 2020s, participants reflected that the greatest transformations were not the lights themselves, but the changes within. Fear had become steadiness. Conflict had become patience. Families had grown calmer, communities more humane. The phenomenon had not revealed its origin, but it had revealed humanity's potential. Phenomena continued as always. Hush, hum, warmth, tang, brightening, geometry, collapse, dim. Dreams rehearsed posture and breath. Yet participants no longer measured success by what appeared. They measured it by who they had become. Did they stay steady? Did they care for each other? Did they carry patience into daily life? These questions replaced demands for proof. Auditors summarized the legacy with a phrase, "The sign is the change." Proof could be denied or forgotten. Transformation endured, a family calmer than before, a community more cooperative, a person less enslaved to fear. These were confirmations stronger than lights in the sky. Dreams of this era often showed thresholds, doors opening into radiant spaces, presences inviting patience. The lesson was consistent: wait, breathe, remain steady. Humanity was being trained not for answers, but for capacity. Final reflection. What do you think is the real miracle? Seeing lights in the sky or becoming a calmer, more humane version of yourself? Comment below with your answer. By the mid-2020s, the culture had spread quietly into schools, workplaces, and homes. Silence before debate, breath before conflict, writing before speech. These habits reshaped daily life. The phenomenon had not delivered disclosure. It had delivered transformation. The story of personal change was not about spectacle, but about subtlety. Not about proof, but about patience. Not about revelation, but about readiness. Humanity had been shown that the deepest sign of contact was not out there. It was in here, in the way people treated themselves and one another. That was the real legacy of the anonymous circles. If this story caught your attention, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with those who are also fascinated by UFOs. And leave your thoughts in the comments. What do you think really happened?